Hello, and welcome back to Matter of Fact, a podcast from the Roy Howard Community Journalism Center, where we report what matters. I'm your host, Halawi Tebebe. With support from the Scripps Howard Foundation, our center works to counter misinformation and strengthen truth-based journalism across communities in Southeast Mississippi. Today's episode is based on our RHCJC news article, Pearl River County introduces microchip stations to reunite lost pets faster. The story centers on a new initiative aimed at helping residents reunite with their lost pets as soon as possible, using the technology of microchip scanning. These new stations are designed to help owners speed up identification and give them more control in the search process. In this episode, we'll dive deeper, exploring why microchipping matters, how the new stations work, and what the initiative reveals about community-driven solutions in rural areas. We'll also talk with student reporter Kristen Kaler about her experience covering this story and what she learned while reporting in the field. For most pet owners, it only takes a moment. A gate left open, a thunderstorm, a startled reaction, and suddenly, their pet has gone missing. In Pearl River County, officials are working to make sure that moment doesn't turn into days of uncertainty. The county has introduced 2 public microchip scanning stations, one at the Picayune police station and another at the Poplarville station. These stations give residents the ability to scan a lost pet and quickly identify whether it has a registered microchip. In the case that the pet does have a microchip, it makes their return home a little bit easier. The goal is simple: shorten the time between lost and rescued. Haley Crow is a volunteer with the Pearl River County Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, also known as SPCA. She spoke with our reporter on how she came about the microchipping stations.
So I was just scrolling Facebook. Always thought it was a good idea to have a microchip station just because it does get so backed up here with animals that just so full we can't get the dogs back reunited with the owners because there's no microchips, especially after hours. So I kind of screenshotted it and posted it on a local page, Picayune Talk, and kind of went from there. We had a lot of positive feedback, and that's kind of how we got it.
Crow decided to take matters into her own hands and contact local authorities to see if microchip stations could become a reality for Pearl River County.
So I actually went to talk to the police station, kind of explained in the situation, and then the main lady came out and said that we already have one in the go and to contact Donna about it, and we were able to go from there, and she had it ready to go. She set it up Friday around 8 a.m., and then that's kind of how that started.
We also spoke with Donna Lowe, who is a volunteer and the foster coordinator for the Pearl River County SPCA. She told our reporter a little bit more about what these microchips actually are.
It's about the size of a grain of rice, and they usually insert it with a needle. It's a one-time thing right between the shoulder blades, and then it's registered to a company with the owner's information, name, address, phone number, stuff like that. That sometimes you could put a picture even if you want to upload one. So whenever we scan that, it gives us a number. We're able to put that number into a search thing to try to find out what company it's likely issued from. And then you have to contact the company to get the information. And the microchip station has a sign that has a QR code that you can scan that goes directly to that lookup number where you can put the number in. And then it tells you if it has a microchip, what you do, the steps to do, and if it doesn't, it tells where you can post on some of the Facebook pages and stuff to try to make the public aware, and also that you can email to us so we can put on our Facebook or our website.
Lowe expanded on what inspired her to take action in her community.
So they're set up outside several locations in St. Tammany Parish. So I reached out to Sheila, the director of our animal services down there, and was like, hey, what was your protocol? Like, what's your setup? Can you send me some blueprints, basically, so I don't have to do all the legwork since it's already been done. So she sent that to me. I reached out to our animal control officer, Hannah, here, and was like, hey, look, I have this idea. What can we do to make it happen?
Lowe emphasizes the importance of these stations as the SPCA continues to regulate the amount of animals they can take in.
Last year it was over 3,000, like 3,500, I think. And we're kind of on managed intake now. We only take animals from animal control. We take them from the public, but you have to call and schedule an appointment. That's so that we know we have the space to take the animal and have a place for them.
On top of that, she says she's in the works of getting a microchip grant, hoping to make these stations a little more accessible and eliminate any financial strains.
I am looking for a microchip grant so that we could offer free microchips. Right now we offer them for $20 during business hours. You bring your pet in and we'll microchip it. it gets registered back to you, and you're responsible like for keeping that information current. But if we had a grant, we could do it for free, and hopefully more pets would get returned to their owners.
Lowe says these stations can eliminate the need for certain pets to be sent to a shelter at all.
I'm hoping that pets that go lost, if they're microchipped, they can go scan them and be like, hey, automatically gets back with their owner. And they never have to come here. They don't get lost, and because a lot of times people will pick up the animals, and like if they can't find who they belong to in a couple days, they'll give them to someone else. And that someone else may not live here, so that pet is going further away from home, and they never get them back.
Crow relayed a similar message of the importance of microchipping, explaining it has a chance to increase the number of pets that actually make it back to their original owners.
So we had about 3,500 intake, cats and dogs, and we had about 122 that were reunited with the owner. Could always be more if all of our animals were microchipped. It's kind of what we're working toward, to have more animals microchipped. We'd really like to see them being used as much as possible and getting all these dogs back to being reunited with their owners. It just gets so stressful trying to bypass the middleman, which is our shelter. If you bring an animal in, they kind of just shut down and they don't do well in a shelter situation. So hopefully we can just bypass that and get them home safely without having to go through the stress of the shelter.
In many ways, this initiative reflects a broader theme that we've seen across Southeast Mississippi. Communities banding together for a better solution. And for the people of Pearl River County, finding their lost pets and bringing them back home just got a little easier. The story you just heard was reported independently by RHCJC's senior student reporter, Kristen Kaler. Kristen spent time speaking with county officials and community members to understand how these microchip stations will operate and why they matter. Kristen joins us now to talk about how the story came together. Thank you for being here, Kristen. So when you first learned about the microchip stations, what questions immediately came to mind?
Well, for me, honestly, I had to sit there and be like, what is a microchip station? Because where I'm from, that was never something in conversation. I mean, even at the vet, we rarely knew about microchips and what they were. So to hear that people had like these tiny little microchip stations that anyone in the community could use was very interesting to me. So I immediately had to dive in and be like, what is going on here?
And I know you did some research, before initially going out into the field. So did some of the research that you did that clear up any of those questions that you had?
I mean, honestly, once I was really able to get into the nitty-gritty, it was pretty self-explanatory. But like I said, I had never heard of a microchip station before. And so to see one being put in action in real time was really interesting for me. Even if I didn't get to see it built, the idea that surrounds it was what really brought me into the story. Because I originally, saw it on a Facebook post, and it's genuinely something that I never would have considered seeing in a community or considered putting up in a community to use.
So what was the most surprising thing you discovered during your reporting process?
I think for me, the most surprising thing, and, it differs from state to state, from county to county, town to town, but the number of animals that weren't microchipped. After doing the research that I had done and speaking with the volunteers, the number of animals that weren't microchipped. And, maybe it's because of cost, maybe it's because pet owners didn't have the facilities or didn't want to, but learning just how important it can be and just how life-changing it can be, both, for the pets and for their owners. So to hear that there were so few that had microchips compared to so many that didn't was what really shocked me, if I'm being honest.
Which kind of brings us back to the awareness or the lack of about this situation, because you can have the facilities and you can have them be as accessible as you want them to, but if people aren't aware, people aren't going to utilize it, right?
Right. And they were talking, while I did the interview, they had mentioned that they have events, it's either annually or biannually, where they do free microchipping. So, regularly it costs about $20. So it doesn't seem like it would be expensive. Maybe to some people it is more expensive than it might be from our perspective. But just to know that those resources are out there, aside from just the microchipping station, I think is really important for pet owners. Because if my animal went missing and I had no way to find them, I would literally be devastated for life.
I think I relate to that too, yeah. So what did you learn from the community as far as their perspective towards the situation?
Yeah, so on the Facebook post, like I said, that's originally where I found the story pitch from. And it was really, really cool to see the community coming together in such a positive manner. I don't think I saw a single negative comment on that post. So for one, seeing them come together, and also these volunteers, as like I said, they're volunteers. They are taking this into their own hands because this is something that they find important in their community. Important enough that they're looking for grant money. And, it's a problem that they see enough in their community that something needs to be done. And they were able to take that initiative. And I was able to just have the opportunity to go out and report on it. So,
and that makes sense because certain issues that matter to our communities may not be at the top of the priority list, speaking for state legislature,
right?
But when something matters, we can come together and try to make a change, or at least put that first foot forward into making a change, and that can ricochet into other city governments taking from their example.
Exactly. And it doesn't always take state or federal legislation to make those changes. Sometimes it is community in a Facebook post, and that's the beautiful thing of it.
What advice, lastly, this is going to be our last question. Mm-hmm. What advice would you give other student reporters covering community-centered initiatives like this one?
Ooh. So I think for me, I would say, first and foremost, always do your research, obviously. You might discover a new angle or new people that you can talk to within the community about the story that you're working on. But also, when you go out and report on a story, you don't always have to ask only about that specific topic. You can ask them anything. And more times than not, you might get another story to pick up on and report. Just listening to those community members, especially volunteers, people who are heavily involved in the community, they have so many stories to tell. You just have to find the right people and talk to them, show them that you care. And like I said, with the grant thing, I was really surprised to hear about that because that was not mentioned. And once Donna and Haley had told me that they were working together, and then Donna told me about the grant thing, I was like, I'm all over that. Mm-hmm. And I'm in full support of that. Right. So keep me updated, please, because that would be another fantastic story, both for the animal shelter and for everybody. So,
and just building connections while you're there reporting for what you're there for, mm-hmm. but also keeping an eye out for other things that may matter to that community.
Yeah, exactly.
Kristen Kaler, thank you for your reporting and for giving us a closer look at the people trying to bring the community's pets back to their homes. Now it's time for What is True, our fact-checking segment, where we break down common claims, talk about how to verify them, and give you the tools to spot what's real. Joining us is Walker Scott, our What is True Media Literacy Coordinator. Walker is over our fact-checking investigations and leads the center's Ask Me What is True community media literacy trainings. Walker, when communities introduce new initiatives like microchipping stations, what should residents look for to verify how they work?
Residents should look for 3 key things: how the technology functions, who manages the data, and what official sources confirm the details. First, it's important to understand how pet microchips work. According to the American Veterinary Medical Association, pet microchips are small radio frequency identification devices implanted under a pet's skin. It's usually inserted with a needle and is registered with the owner's information, such as name, address, and phone number. When these microchips are scanned, their owner's information is retrieved and the animal can be returned to their families. Second, residents should verify who is responsible for maintaining the scanning stations. Is it the country, animal control, a nonprofit partner? And third, residents should check whether the reporting explains how data privacy is handled. Microchips themselves only transmit identification numbers, not personal data.
So, what are some common misconceptions about pet microchipping that media literacy can help clarify?
Unlike what most people believe, they do not contain GPS tracking capabilities. Instead, they transmit a unique ID number when scanned, which can be used to access the owner's contact information through a registration database. Rumors can be easily dispelled by looking for product details from the manufacturer's websites.
Why is it important for local journalism to provide context and clear explanations when covering technological advancements or solutions like this one?
Local journalism is unique among other forms of journalism because it offers a higher level of trust than national or international news. This makes local journalism a key player in the fight against misinformation and disinformation. Local journalism also caters to an audience who is often missing full context for information, such as technological advancements, making it important for news sources like the RHCJC to inform its readers on technology, which is often difficult to understand.
And I know you talked about trust, so how does reporting on small, practical initiatives like microchipping stations strengthen that trust between communities and their local government?
It's initiatives like this that have the potential to make residents' lives better, but won't necessarily make national waves. Regardless of how big the news is, it still matters to people it affects. To have a news source that reports on this means that you know that you have news that caters to you and is serving you and the people you care about.
Lastly, from a media literacy standpoint, what makes this story an example of proactive, solution-oriented reporting?
Misinformation and disinformation often focuses on negative viewpoints in stories. This is because when people are scared or angry, it's easy to get them to share whatever is making them feel that way. The RHCJC is dedicated to telling the truth, and as such, we report stories that positively impact our coverage area, not just the negative ones. Southeast Mississippians need stories that show how their communities are improving just as much as they need stories that tell them what they need to be cautious of.
That's what is true with Media Literacy Coordinator Walker Scott. You can learn more about the program or submit a question of your own at rhcjcnews.com/WITREQ or by calling 601-266-TRUE. That's 601-266-8783. You can read the full article we covered in today's episode and check out other stories just like it at rhcjcnews.com. And be sure to follow us on social media at rhcjcnews. As always, thank you for listening and for spending time with us as we take you behind the scenes of the Roy Howard Community Journalism Center. I'm Halawi Tebebe, and this is Matter of Fact.